All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming this evening. Thank you for missing the All-Star game, or at least TiVoing it. Yeah, here's your chance. This evening, the Hip Investor Roundtable is going to talk about how to hip your trip and eco-travel and hospitality. So we have great speakers tonight from the Fairmont Hotel Group, Orchard Garden Hotel, Deloitte Consulting to talk about their corporate travel program, and then we have a couple mini presentations for a couple minutes as well. So we'll go through those. So we're going to get right into it, and because we have a little bit of a late start, I want to thank Hanson Bridget for accommodating us this evening. Hanson Bridget is a law firm that supports companies focused on sustainability. They also do their own events, usually like the third Thursday of every month. So there's another one. There's one coming up next Thursday, July 17th, on clean technology. So just wanted to thank Hanson Bridget, and we have a late start because of one of their conferences that was predetermined. So, and if you need something to drink, feel free to get up and get something. And this is meant to be interactive. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to ask them. Okay, so pop quiz for everybody. Raise your left hand if you like to do good. All right, good. And raise your right hand if you like to make money. Patrick has already passed the test. Raise both your hands if you like to do both. Fantastic. So that's what HIP is. HIP is the intersection of doing good and making money, what we call human impact and profit. And this is the fifth roundtable. Our first, which was here at Hanson Bridget, was around 10 HIP places to safely park your cash. You can find information about that online. We did one focused on microfinance. Small loans make big change. We covered one on organic food and beverage. And our last one was on renewable energy. So hopefully we'll continue to keep raising the bar as we have each time. And a quick overview of HIP is that we believe that there's a lot of money to be made by solving human problems. And that you can choose to be a nonprofit, but you can also choose to be a for-profit. And as a for-profit, if you solve problems in health or wealth or earth or equality, and you really solve the root cause of that human problem, you can create a business model, generate revenue, and profit from it. That not only creates new products and services, some of which we'll hear about this evening, that inspires people to do this. So I was just at a conference where I heard that 92% of graduating undergraduates want to work in a company that does well or is green. And the presenter of that said that's essentially 100%, because in any survey, 8% of the people don't know their name. So, and not only is it profitable, it's good for a planet and society. So just quickly, what does HIP Investor do? We help investors pick portfolios. So we do investment consulting and investment guidance. We do scorecards, both for investor portfolios and companies, to help them become more sustainable. And then we publish ratings and rankings in Fast Company magazine, which you might have seen around big oil. And we also did a cross-industry one. And there'll be another one hopefully popping out later this year. So I'm going to give you a quick overview, because we have some really great, insightful, and expert speakers this evening. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the travel industry. And thanks to Dana and Will of HIP for helping out with the research. We're going to talk a little bit about corporate travel and how that drives the business of travel, and then how you might consider building a HIP portfolio for your own investment. So as is usually the case, it's within like 2 days of a HIP Investor Roundtable, there's something in the news about that month's roundtable. So today's Wall Street Journal keeps getting closer and closer. Airlines cut long flights to save fuel costs. Okay, so I read airlines cut long flights to save fuel costs. I'm like, well, wait a second. How does that work? Why would an airline stop more often versus a direct flight? Wouldn't that save more? So does anybody know the answer? So it's a good point, hours and labor, but it's actually something a little bit different. What's that? The weight of the fuel. So essentially, to fly an 18-hour flight from Singapore to New York, actually, given the price of fuel, it's a losing proposition to carry all that fuel versus stopping halfway and then continuing. Other things that you might experience as you travel are slower takeoffs, still enough to get off the ground, and coasting, especially at SFO where you have to take off, and sort of coasting landings, like you would coast at the top of a hill. With oil at $140 a barrel, U.S. Air says that the average passenger, for them to fly an average passenger, takes $300. So if you get a discount air ticket for $300, you're just paying for the fuel. You're not paying for the landing slot. You're not paying for the labor on the airplane. You're not paying for the lease of the airplane. You're not paying for the marketing program. And you're certainly not paying anything for shareholders, which we'll see in a minute. So travel and tourism is a big business. It's going on $1 trillion industry globally. And it actually employs every fifth or sixth person around the world. And so this is big business. And it's a mix of leisure travel and business travel, which we'll see. And there's a high ripple effect. So when you go and travel someplace, you stay in a hotel, you eat out. And so this year it's estimated to contribute almost $6 trillion in global GDP. So this is 1950. As you know from all hip investor roundtables, we love data. So here's the visual story of the growth in air travel. These are based on international tourist arrivals. And as you see, this bottom line here is Europe. Everybody goes to Europe. People from around the world all go to Europe. The second one, the red line, is Americas. And then the third line, which is the biggest growth after this year, is in East Asia and the Pacific. So Japan and China. And so we're going to have just as much growth in the next 15 years as we've had in the past 50. And the amount of money that's being spent, in the past 2 decades, tourism revenue has tripled. So why do people travel? People travel half of the time for leisure, recreation, and holidays, or a quarter of the time for family visits or their health or religion, like, say, going to Mecca. And then a smaller slice, higher revenue and higher profit, is business travel. But the majority of travelers are leisure and family travelers. Now, how do people get around? I think this is based on the U.S., half by air and half by road. So these are actually, this includes people driving from Canada and Mexico into the States, but not so much trains, of planes, trains, and automobiles. And just there's this big market known as travel and tourism, but there's actually this emerging niche market in spas and related hospitality. So this is a study that was just done. There's 71,000 spas worldwide, covering about $60 billion in revenue. So small segment, but significant. But when you go to the spa and you stay there and you eat at the restaurant and you hang out, there's another $194 billion worth of revenue. And so the number one destination for spas is in the U.S. The number 2 is in Japan. This is by dollar value, and Germany. But coming up fast is number 7 in China. So travel is globalizing. And when you look at the Fortune 1000 companies, there are 3 types of companies that make this up. There's 12 publicly listed airlines, and we'll see how well or not so well they're doing at the end of this wrap-up. There's 3 hotel groups, and there's 6 entertainment companies, casinos, and who are bigger than some airlines and hotel groups. And from an environmental perspective, right, you may be seeing some of the debate around where greenhouse gases come from. So about 5% of global greenhouse gases and emissions come from travel and tourism. Most of them, the largest segment from air transport, the second largest from road transport, your rental car, and the third largest from your accommodations. And so when you take a trip, you are having a carbon footprint. And so what we'll hear about tonight are ways to help mitigate that. And then finally,